All right, well, we're back again. And so I want to say hello to everybody and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla. And once again, I've got Ari Simpson here.
Hi, everyone.
Yep, joining me. And we are so glad that you're here with us and you're continuing to follow us. And so, as usual, our goal is to talk about mental health related issues and that stigma surrounding them. And in fact, that's where we're going today, the stigma.
Yes, today. So we always put hashtags start the talk to end the stigma. So when people hear that or people see that, what is it that you're trying to get across from just the hashtag?
Honestly, there. So when I went back to school, I was older, and so I had a lot of older friends because we're all old people. And unfortunately, the reputation of a therapist or a mental health counselor really was not a positive one. It was actually it was quite scary. You know, some of the comments I heard back and forth, I'm not going to repeat some of them because they're just really not appropriate. But basically, it was a very adverse relationship, and I just don't think that that should be it. And so, what I saw, what I discovered was that if you needed help, mental health help, that somehow you're broken. There's something wrong with you, and the reality of it is that's not true. In fact, I find some of the healthiest people are the ones who are willing to say, "Hey, I need some help,"
Right.
right? Um, and so the more I went back to school, the more I was learning as I was starting to get out in this profession. Um, there was way too many examples of how mental health was looked down upon. Um, I actually had somebody ask me, uh, well, let's put it this way. Their comment was that I must not have prayed enough as a Christian because I felt mental health counseling was important. And the reality of it is the two are not separated from each other, right? Um, it's, you, yes, prayer works, and yes, I firmly believe in it, but to say that somehow I was negligent in my beliefs and that's why I have mental health issues is not a fair assessment. Or, you're just too sensitive. And if you were a little tougher, then maybe you would be okay and then you wouldn't need mental health um, help. Or that therapist is just going to brainwash you into thinking what they want you to think, right? And so it it's so hard to watch people suffer when they don't really need to suffer,
Right.
right? I mean, and we were using this hashtag for a number of years already, but with Simone Biles and the Olympics, and when she chose to not continue in order to preserve her mental health, I was like doing backflips in my head because in reality I can't do them. But in my head, I was like doing triple, quadruple backflips just in celebration of the fact that she had um, the guts to say, whoa, I'm important. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm not going to put myself so far out there that I'm going to somehow damage myself, you
Right.
know?
Right. And with mental health being such a stigma, definitely in just the different communities, but I do see a lot more athletes, stars talking about anxiety, depression. So just in different levels, different SES classes, different cultural backgrounds, it's definitely been talked about more. But of course, it's still the piece of like people actually coming in the door and getting services.
Right.
Um, so what is something that you could tell a person that's on the fence about coming in, but at the same time, they don't know if this is the right fit or what
Sure.
that would be for them?
So I think part of what happens is that um, we've got this idea of what it means to be depressed or what it means to be anxious. So clients are coming in and they're like, "Well, I'm not like that." whatever that is, right?
Hmm.
I'm not so bad, that I need to be hospitalized. So I clearly am not depressed enough to be here. Or because I work with a lot of trauma, um, I often hear, well, my trauma is not nearly as bad as so and so's trauma, right? So somehow there's this like unspoken competition. Like if you're not bad enough, then you don't need to come in.
Right.
But the reality of it is, um, everyone can benefit from talking to somebody. Whether you've got something significant going on in your life or not, right? So let's just start there. A safe place to talk to somebody and bounce ideas off of them is hugely, useful to everybody. Now, you add depression or anxiety or any of the other things that are going on, and then it helps you to come in and learn different coping mechanisms, realize that you're not the only one. Um, I want to say normalize it, meaning that, this is not this big scary monster out there that a lot of people struggle with this stuff. And if we can recognize it, we can bring it into the light, then it won't have the same hold over us, right?
Right.
And again, this idea of being open to something different is really so key, right? So, can you come in and just learn a little bit more about yourself, learn a little bit more about the process, right? Dip your toe into that pond again and see what happens.
Okay. Okay. I think it's really good, even just with the stigma just in minority communities, which in past years, the mental health system actually did more damage than help in minority
Hmm.
communities. So, what would be something that you would like to say or like speaking to the minority communities of why, because the fear is still greatly there and still strong, so it's not necessarily a stigma when you've had factual things that's
Most
happened.
definitely.
But what makes the difference now? Because, like you said, you've had an experience in college where it was older, maybe older clinicians, or just the talk was still there. So what makes it different? What makes the cognitive clinic different about how we service the communities where it's something that's going to help everybody, not
Yeah.
just one person?
So, first off, when a client calls, or a potential client, I should say, calls, they get our lovely Eva. And Eva is really good about helping them walk through everything that they need to know. So, whether they're going to use insurance or if they're going to pay out of pocket, maybe they don't have insurance. We have interns for that. So, that's awesome, right? We've got some awesome, awesome interns. But she walks through all those types of things. And there's two things that happen. She asks more or less, give me a gist of what's going on, just so I have a sense, so I can get you to the right person. Right, there's the key, the right person. And then she goes on to tell them, if for some reason, when you meet with so and so, you don't feel like it's the right person, that it's not a good fit, that you need to come back to me and we'll get you the right person to make the right fit. Therein lies the difference, right? So a lot of people feel like they just don't really have a choice, right? They have
Hmm.
to take whoever they get. They have to work in whatever modality that person happens to be working in. But there's a lot of choices. There's a lot of choices. So you want somebody who's more talk therapy, then we might guide you over here. If you want somebody who does more experiential type therapy, then we're going to guide you over here. If you want to work with a female counselor, we're going to guide you this way versus a male counselor. You want a person of color. Do you want, we have, that's the beautiful part about being a group practice is we have a nice variety of people who are doing a nice variety of things. And so Eva's goal with just this little tiny snippet, right, is to help find you the right fit. But then it doesn't stop there. So that initial meeting, the client gets to meet the therapist. They kind of get to know each other a little bit. And I'm sure within the first meeting, sometimes you can tell, nope, this is not going to be the right fit, or maybe yes, it is. Um, but you also have many meetings that you can have that, right? And if 10 sessions in, you're like, yeah, this is not going the way I want it to go,
Right.
guess what? Guess what? Eva's offer still stands. Call her back up and say, it's not working with Carla. I don't know what it is. We're not clicking. Then we're not clicking, right? I rather have you be with a clinician who you can jive with, right? That client needs to have um, the sense that that clinician's got their back no matter what,
Right.
right? And if they don't feel that, they don't feel that connection, then we got to find them somebody else, right?
Right.
And we don't take offense to it. In fact, we feel pretty crummy when we find out a client's been kind of silently suffering through a clinician and never said anything when we could have helped, remedy that. And again, we don't fix people, but we could fix who you see, right? We could change that up. And
Right.
again, that means that they're not walking out of here with this idea that, look, all therapy sucks and we don't want to be, part of this, right?
Right.
They don't
Right.
really care about me. They just want to get my money and or
Right.
whatever their
Right.
rant is, right?
Right. But it really sounds like from the very beginning, you help the client or prospective client learn to have their voice from the very beginning.
Exactly. Exactly. Because this is about them deciding to do something with their life, right? This is their work,
Right.
right? So if they're not all in, doesn't matter how wonderful I am or how wonderful you are,
Right.
And if they're comfortable with us, again, no matter how wonderful we are, then it won't work. So we got to get the client to the right person, right, to do the right kind of work, and then that client can do the work and really grow and transform who they are.
Right. I really like being here and being part of the cognitive clinic because once again, it's also the culture. When you walk in, going back to your our first show that we taped, just talking about the atmosphere, because the whole entire atmosphere is set to make everybody feel welcome from the very beginning.
We work hard on it. We do. We work hard. I mean, it's very purposeful. I remember when we first moved up here. Well, even before then, we started having the conversation, and we were looking for furniture. I said to Eva, "We have to have couches in the waiting room." And she's like, "Okay." And because we don't have couches, if it doesn't look like someone's living room, then there's going to be a problem. She's like, "Okay." No, but it has to be inviting, and it has. She's like, "Okay, I got it. It's cool, right?" But it was because I had entered into enough other types of waiting rooms where that was not the case, right? It was still, as much as they might have tried to be soft and comfortable, there was still a clinical element to it, a very institutional element. And I wanted to make sure none of that happened. I wanted someone to feel so comfortable that they could take off their shoes and kick their feet up on our ottomans, and or we had a client's mother who used to come in with her blanket, and she would snuggle under the blanket on the couch and read while her daughter was, in with her therapist. I want that. I want that. I want the kid laying on the floor waiting for his turn, because they feel so comfortable, right? And this way, they're not afraid to come into our space. And then hopefully that stigma gets reduced because now they're going to say, well, um, you may go to some place that feels kind of institutional and you feel like all buttoned up, but, I feel so comfortable here. Um, I can share this story. I had a client who was looking for somebody to work with her young daughter, social anxiety, whatnot. And so we decided that perhaps an evaluation might be a way to start, at least to get a sense of what really might be going on under this kind of selective mutism type stuff, right?
Okay.
And she went. I mean, the meeting was fine for all intents and purposes, but she came back and she said to me, um, their waiting room wasn't right. And I said, well, okay. Well, it didn't have comfortable chairs. And I said, well, not everyone has comfortable. Yeah, and the lights were just really harsh. And I said, okay. And like there was no real mood there. And I'm like, well, not everyone's like the cognitive clean. I'm just letting you know it really wasn't. Like and there was nothing wrong with the place. Give me, but she had never been anywhere else except for here. So she thought all counseling places, all therapeutic places were set up like this. And so she was really surprised. Now she said when she got into the office, it was great, but she was like, I just want to tell you about this waiting room. It wasn't right. I'm like, okay,
Right.
right,
It definitely flows for not just in the counseling room, it
right,
into the waiting room. So you feel it as soon as you walk in the door because I can say I've been places, great places. It's just but once I got in my actual counselor's room, did I feel the personality or the warmth or the comfort? Everything else was kind of just
right.
straightforward. Um, but I guess some reasoning by some people was like not to offend anybody in different ways if your setting goes one way or the other. So how can you speak to that? Because you're very open and it's very loving and have this particular essence when you first walk in. How would you speak to that if somebody asked you, or because I'm sure it's always going to be a counselor that would say, or a facility they might say, like, no, it's supposed to be a certain way, a certain structure. But by you being different, because we don't even have a way a receptionist stand at the beginning.
No, no, no. So I would say that every place has to have their own personality,
Mhm.
has to have their own culture.
Mhm.
And if this is, and if you are the owner or the manager of a particular place, then it should express who you are. And if that's who you are, then that's great. And I will tell you, there are many people who will appreciate this setup versus that setup, right? And so that's the other thing. We want to end this stigma so that people feel comfortable making choices about what's going to best help them. Now, of course, I think the cognitive clinic is uniquely set up to do that. And I have got a very specific way that I want to see things work. But I know not everybody's going to fit here, right? And I don't take offense to that. I know there's other people who want to have that more clinical, institutional feel to it, and that's great. I have a lot of really awesome networking partners out there that I can refer you to that, you know, maybe do it differently than we do, whatever that different might be, right? Because we're not always going to be the right fit for everybody.
Right.
But if we can get past this stigma of actually getting the help, and then get really crazy and get the help that's going to best meet our needs and our personality and who we are, whoop, that'd be crazy.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to give one more option out there for clients, right? So
Right.
be strong, get past that stigma, be okay with saying that, yes, I'm getting therapy because I want to make a difference in my life, and then get to the place that's going to best meet your needs.
Right. Well, thank you so much for going over our hashtag and going more in depth because I'm sure everybody truly appreciates it.
Thank you so much. And remember, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, like us, share the whole 9 yards. And remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, transform your life by focusing on your overall well being. So until next time, continue working on being the best you possible. Bye.
Bye.